Welcome to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana Crash, and today I am joined by Peter Perkins, CEO of Golden Grove. How are you doing today, Peter?
I'm great, Diane.
Great. So we're just going to get into it because that's what we do on this podcast. We're going to get personal about your plant medicine experience. So can you share a little bit about how your journey with substance abuse disorder, how you discovered Kratom as a natural potential aid for your recovery process? Like, how did plant medicine play a part in that in general? I just asked you a lot of questions. Let's break that down. Sorry.
And that could go way, way back as well too. But we'll abbreviate that. In my teens and 20s, I used pretty much every chemical I could get a hold of to access. And, to say I had cocaine use disorder and alcohol use disorder would be a very fair, maybe even an understatement. And later on in my late 20s, I experienced opioid use disorder. And so I know what it's like to try and get clean from opioids. And it's very different than alcohol and very different than cocaine. And it was a physically grueling and mentally grueling process. And I did it, luckily, with the use of some pharmaceuticals back then, things like Suboxone. And I had a great doctor who treated me the way I think you should be treated, and used Suboxone as a very short-term product to get me, and this is my own personal belief, I'm not a clinician here.
But that's great. I mean, seriously, not to cut you off, but having someone understand that that's the short term of it all, that's a big deal.
It was great.
Yeah.
And so I was on it for a short period of time. They put me on naltrexone after that, and that sort of tapered off. And I used that kind of traditional AA method that was introduced to me, and it worked great. I had a great group of guys that supported me, and it worked well. And I got married, and I went on, and I had a career, and all that kind of got left in the past. And most people that know me don't know that I ever had opioid use disorder. I mean, they know I don't drink, so I can probably assume that I was abiding and other things way back when. But about 10 years ago, I ran into one of my old friends from growing up. I was on vacation in the summertime, and we were sort of next door neighbors up on Lake Michigan. And I hadn't seen him in years. And he told me about Kratom and how it had saved his life. And it was, he has all sorts of hardware in his spine. He'd had a bunch of spinal operations and was in chronic pain. And he had been to treatment several times for opioids because he'd been treated with heavy prescription drugs, and then he'd had to go to street heroin because it's a lot less expensive. Back then, you didn't just drop dead because it had fentanyl in it. And so he'd gone through a variety of treatments, and he was living in South Florida. And it kind of a little bit like your story, when I listened to your podcast talking about it, all of a sudden he found Kratom, and it saved his life. And he's really like an evangelist for it.
Wow. That's so cool. Yeah, it's great when you meet people like that out in the world. They tell you these stories. And it's great when you have products that you can trust to help you through those processes. Or processes, is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking to that point, how did your experience shape the Golden Grove product line? Did it shape it at all, or?
So I tried Kratom with my friend way back when, and we just sort of stayed in touch because at that point, that was when there was a lot of states that were starting to ban Kratom, and he had put together an industry association to try and fight that. And he was telling me about it, and I had a little lobbying experience. And so I told him, you need to find a state lobbyist in each of these states. And so I was kind of helping coach him on how to deal with this. And I think they were very successful, and they created something called the American Kratom Protection Act, and it overturned a lot of these states. And this is why we can find kratom everywhere. And over the years, when I'd see David, I'd try a kratom product that he had or that he'd made, and some of them were a little too much and not something that I liked. And then some of them were really mild, and I very much enjoyed them. They gave me the feeling kind of like I had a cup of coffee, and I don't want to say had a drink because they really weren't like that. But it
like gives you that relaxation feel, right? Like of maybe a couple glasses of wine or something like that without the buzzy feeling of being inebriated, right?
And without making me want to drink of alcohol either.
Yeah.
or another chemical of any sort.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So I know we touched on it a little bit, but what ways do you think that kratom is different than other types of plant medicine that you've encountered in your recovery? I mean, I know we can't make any medical claims here.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the gist?
I know that. I think what's really neat about kratom is, for one, it's been around forever. Yeah. And so there's just a huge history. It comes from the species that the coffee tree is in, so we can sort of understand some of the feelings that people get out of it. But people take it for a variety of different reasons, and it's kind of it's a little bit, I guess, like cannabis, in that a lot of people use it for a lot of different reasons, and they all get positive. Maybe they don't all have positive, but the ones that continue to use it find benefit from it for a variety of different reasons, and some of them use them for. Some people use it for the social aspect. Some people use it to help them out with ailments that they have that they didn't find a good solution to in traditional medicine. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about it. And at the same time, it's a generally very, very safe product. It's when it's unadulterated, it's very safe. And I've heard doctors talk about it, and there's really the few really negative incidents are generally when it's used with a lot of other substances combined with it. And then, of course, or like extracts. Anything, that's yes, exactly. Or really strong, really strong extracts that aren't proportionally the right amount for somebody to take.
Right. Yes. I mean, dosing is everything, honestly. And I think that the difference for me was that, like, I had tried some other things to kind of taper off of prescription pain medicine. You know, I tried valerian root, chamomile, cannabis, and all of that. And they did help in a variety of ways, like you said. But nothing actually replaced. I shouldn't say replaced. It was better than the feeling of pain medicine for me. And I don't know how to say that without making it sound like it's something that you should proceed with caution with, right? But then again, that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, you really should proceed with caution because it can give you such euphoria and such a body relief. Like, my whole body felt relief in a way that I hadn't ever since I started having pain issues. And so I can see the potential, and I even myself have gone down that road because I didn't really understand the dosing part of it. I used to have the mind frame of like, this is working, let me keep using it, it's just like, take more.
No, it doesn't work that way.
No.
Yes. I always say they're like a lot of things, it has a bell curve.
Right.
And nobody wants to be on the backside of a bell curve. It's just not fun.
No.
Too much caffeine is a horrible thing. I'm a big coffee espresso drinker, and years ago my wife sent me to this barista class, and we were sampling shots of espresso, little too good, poured a little too quick, a little too slow.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was on the floor with a cold compress on my head, feeling like I needed to go to the hospital. And so
Wow.
it really, anything taken more than you should is a really not a pleasant experience.
I know, but it's weird that it's the only type of plant medicine that when I'm talking to people about it who have no idea, but they've heard little bits here and there, and they'll be like, what's the deal with kratom? And you have to be like, well, first of all, it's a plant. Let's remember that. It's you have to really consider dosing, and you have to start with all the like the disclaimers basically before just saying it really does help a lot of people. I have seen it save so many lives. And so, but you have to like balance that somewhere, right? Like you have to come. And so to that point, because there is a lot of skepticism out there, a lot of negative talk, a lot of misinformation. So how do you handle that skepticism and criticism from those who may view kratom as just something that is another addictive substance?
So my previous business before this, I helped build a substance use disorder treatment company, and we grew the business from a little company in Connecticut with a really the founder had just a really innovative idea of bringing the treatment to people, and we would bring the entire care team to the person on their schedule and treat them on their time without any sort of shame. And what was wonderful about it was that we would go into the home, so you'd treat the whole family, and I'm going to make it really short and not a sales on that. But our outcomes were fantastic. And part of what made them great was that we were willing to look at what was their quality of life? What was their quality of life when they came into it? What was their quality of life when they left us? If they had a reoccurrence, which was really common, since we were sort of intertwined with them, we'd catch it really quick and we'd turn it around into a 2-day thing instead of with no real shame and get them right back on track instead of 6 months where they might end up out of a job or a relationship or all sorts of other negative consequences. And through that, I realized that everybody's journey is different, and everybody's journey doesn't look exactly the same. And a lot of people will come in and they'll have issues with other substances, and they might leave using a different substance. So they might leave, this is somebody who came in and in a state where there's medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, and we might have a client who's like 74% of all patients, their alcohol use disorder. And they come and they leave and they're using a little bit of cannabis, and is that a success? Well, in our book, it is a success. Like
from a harm reduction standpoint.
Absolutely. Right? Well, and physically, I mean, in every single way, are they happy? Are they in their home? Are they happy with their family? Are their relationships better? All of these kind of things. I mean, if your goal is 100% abstinence, then I guess it's not a success.
No.
But if your goal is to improve health outcomes and to improve mental health outcomes, then it's a grand slam. And so that's really how I approached kratom.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've spoken to Dr. Peter Grinspoon about it before on our other podcast, on Your Highness podcast. And he makes a really good point that the abstinence only model, and I mean, a lot of people have made this point, but but to what you were saying, he's talking from a harm reduction viewpoint. What are they using when they leave compared to when they came in? Like you said, is that as harmful as the thing that they were using when they came in, and measuring it in a reality? Because like you said, I've had family members, parents who have gone into these treatment programs that take up months of time. It takes away your job. It takes away a lot of resources, and it really takes a lot to kind of reset your life after that, right? So looking at it in a reality from a realistic harm reduction standpoint is very powerful, and I'm just really glad that you touched on that. So let's talk about lion's mane. Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, especially when you look at how deadly like the opiate epidemic is right now.
Right.
I mean, it's really like anything outside of that is really wonderful. And if you can provide a product that's helpful to people and people enjoy and people aren't dying, that I think that's a good deed.
Absolutely. I know there was one recovery in Maine. I don't think it's in existence anymore. It was a program where they were using cannabis and kratom, and it was just changing so many lives. People were not going back into treatment after that. It was, they picked up tools that they could use for the rest of their lives in a realistic way, So I think that is definitely the future of rehab.
I don't think our clinicians used them as tools. I think it was really more like a client was using it as a tool, and we
Right.
made sure that they were using it in a legal and safe way.
Yeah.
And that's they didn't like prescribe somebody to go out and use kratom or
Oh,
cannabis. It just they did, and then we made sure that they were doing it in a safe way and they knew what they were
okay.
doing, and yeah.
Well, this particular recovery, I think it was shut down because it was very controversial. I mean, I wrote
Oh,
an article
for
about it
sure.
like 8 or 9 years ago, and I remember I had to, uh, I couldn't use the person's name, her real name who was running it, and I couldn't use the people who were, it was very. But I think that it's definitely something we should put into the conversation when it comes to rehabilitation or any type of recovery program. You know. Um, so, all right, switching gears a
You,
little bit. Oh, sorry. No, go
you asked
ahead.
me about lion's mane. I was going to jump back to your previous question. I got distracted on you.
So you didn't take your
So
lion's mane today then, did you? No, I'm just joking.
I, I honestly have not had my lion's mane yet today. There you go. I had a little caffeine this morning. When we created Golden Grove, we really were trying to find a way to make a beverage that made speciosa, that made kratom more approachable, and it was a safe way. It was an approachable way for people to enjoy it, and was a way that was consistent. That people knew that every time they'd see it, it was the same way, and also that was enjoyable. We haven't talked about it, but kratom is kind of bitter. The
Yeah.
extracts are bitter. The old fashioned tea is. I mean, I would personally describe it as almost nasty. I mean, it's just it
Yeah,
tastes
the
like bad
amount of
medicine.
honey we went through when we were making the tea ourselves. Oh. And it was always something, add lemon, add this, add that. I mean, we were always adding things to it. Now I just take it in pill form, but
Yes.
not everyone likes that method.
Well, I know that we've made it in a way that actually tastes great, and so that's something I'm really proud of. It took a lot of work,
Yeah.
and it was a variety of different extracts to get the right extract. So we use an extract that's just mitragynine, and we put 35 milligrams of it in it, which is about equivalent to 2 grams of leaf powder, and it seems to be the right amount for somebody. It seems to be the right amount for somebody who hasn't had kratom before,
Hmm.
and enough that somebody who is used to kratom still finds it and enjoys it.
So that is really smart that you said that. And now I have another question for you. So, one of the most common side effects of kratom is nausea if you've never had it before or when you're trying it on an empty stomach. Was that any kind of a factor in your formulation? Because I know it's a seltzer, right? So that can be a little easier on the stomach.
It is so it's carbonated water and fruit juices, and then the kratom extract, as well as lion's mane and L-theanine, and I'll get to the lion's mane that you asked me about a little bit, but
Yeah.
uh, so it is really an all natural drink, and it's in a 7.5 ounce can. It tastes great. Um, I find that like if you put it over ice in a rocks glass, it's almost like having a little cocktail. Or if you just have it, a lot of people will drink it in the afternoon because they want a little pick me up, or They want something to help them focus before the end of the day. I know some people who take it before they go to the gym because they enjoy it that way. And then I know people who take it in the evening and they like to enjoy it to relax, and they say they sleep better. So people take it for a lot of reasons. It seems to work for each of them for the reason that they enjoy it. And I wanted to make a product that was safe. People could experience the kratom. They had a lot of people take it for the focus and sort of the relaxing piece of it. And so lion's mane seemed like a natural complement to us. When we created Golden Grove, we really wanted to have a product that people who enjoyed the focused piece of kratom could also have lion's mane, which is said to improve brain health. And a lot of people take it for focus and clarity. And we thought the two would complement each other well. And there's no negative effect of putting the two of them together. And I think we've created a beverage that does exactly that.
Nice. I love lion's mane. I'm actually growing some right now. It's in the same room as me. And we have done an episode or two about it. So definitely go back and listen to our mushroom episodes, because lion's mane has incredible benefits, truly. And I don't know that I would take it before bed, but some people do, and they're fine. I don't know. I think I'm a little more sensitive to it nowadays, like to things that can make you more alert, I guess.
That comes with aging.
Yeah.
I used to drink coffee in the evening, and I don't drink coffee anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not there yet of stopping coffee, but I definitely can't drink it in the evening anymore. And I did not think I would come to that point in my life, but that's where I'm at. But anyway, yeah, that is a really great concept to take two things. And I mean, especially lion's mane, because not only can it help with focus, but I think it can also help with pain relief. I don't know that there's anything out there that proves that just yet, but for me, I think it does. At least it helps me with movement, which I guess in the long term can help with pain relief, right? So it gets me moving more.
Absolutely.
So
that's a good thing either way.
Yeah,
that's a
right?
good thing either way.
Yeah. So before we end, how can people support you, and where can they find your products?
Well, it's a brand new product, and we just got it in our warehouse and started distributing it about 2 weeks ago. So I've been on the road meeting with distributors, and pretty soon you'll be able to find it at a convenience store near you. And until then, you can go to drinkgoldengrove.com and order it there. They're delicious. I think if anybody's used kratom products before, they will be very pleasantly surprised. I've had a lot of people that work for other kratom companies, that own other kratom companies, try it, and everybody has the same response. Wow, that really tastes good.
Well, I'm excited to try it. So when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is such a wonderful mixture of ingredients. I'm seeing this a lot more now, people putting kratom with other ingredients in beverages, which I'm pretty excited about because I've been doing that for a while on my own. So I'm glad to see it, and I'm glad that it's so accessible. And I'm really also just honored that you took the time to create such a thoughtful product, because a lot of people I shouldn't say a lot of people, but there are people out there who will just, try to hop on that buzzy train and take advantage of people. And it doesn't sound like that's what you're doing. So I'm glad. I'm glad that you exist is what I'm saying.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed talking about it. And I'll tell you what, we worked really hard to not be one of those companies.
Yes. Thank you for that.
It really kind of goes against everything we want to do.
Right. Glad to hear it. So come back anytime. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. This episode was produced by Your Highness Media. Audio editing done by James Crash. And sponsored by mitragaya.com. Be sure to subscribe and rate our podcast if you haven't yet. And subscribe to our Your Highness Media newsletter on Substack for everything new going on in the Your Highness media world.